Absolutely. Football season underway for the Hoosiers as they took on the vaunted number 3 Ohio State Buckeyes on Saturday. And man, that was a game that did not go as I expected in a lot of different ways. Surprisingly good in some ways, surprisingly horrible in other ways, but surprising nonetheless.
Yeah, I think it was both reassuring as well as concerning. To see a defense that's capable of playing one of the better teams in the nation and and standing up. I thought the defense did a phenomenal job of standing up to the Buckeyes and limiting not just points but explosive plays, which has kind of been the bugaboo around this defense here lately. On the other side of the coin, you've got an offense that now I think I have more questions after that game than I did before the season started. Just really, I don't know, anemic, ineffective. It was a struggle to move the ball, and we've seen this in the past with Indiana, kind of that yin and yang, where they can be really good on one side of the ball and really struggle on the other. And it feels, though, that Indiana's kind of back in that position again, where half the team, or at least one side, is going to be able to put them in position to compete, and the other one is going to struggle mightily. So I don't know that it's probably wise to make any sweeping conclusions right now after a matchup against a team such as Ohio State, but certainly a lot of questions on the radar as far as how can they get some semblance of an identity on offense going forward. And I think this Friday should give them at least a chance, if nothing else, to hopefully build a little confidence, both in the players, but I think especially in the staff. And you saw that in yesterday's press conference. Walt Bell pretty much owning up to the fact that they played too conservative. They didn't take enough shots, that they were trying to kind of protect two young quarterbacks and not destroy their psyche. But at the end of the game, didn't really do anything that gave them a shot to win the ball game. And it's one thing to hear fans say, best case scenario, just don't get your doors blown off. Don't get embarrassed. That's the best case scenario. I said it last week before the game. I literally said that's, try to at least compete. It's another thing though when you hear the coaches basically echoing those same words. So we'll see if they can't maybe inspire a little more confidence this week. Maybe get a little bit more creative and trying to get some of their playmakers involved. And try to figure out a way to put some points on the board, because as good as the defense was in limiting it, this Indiana team only produced 2 drives over 20 yards the entire game, resulting in a paltry 3 points. And that's just not going to cut it in any league against any opponent, quite honestly.
No, and I know some people say, "Hey, the guys, they were playing Ohio State, yada yada." This Ohio State team was not dominant. As a matter of fact, I think that they are lucky to be a top 25 team right now. They don't have a lot of offensive identity. They look like just an average offensive team on both sides of the ball, to be honest with you. Indiana's defense clearly outshined Ohio State, in my opinion. And if Indiana had an average offense, this would have been a hell of a game. This would have been I think it would have been a back and forth game. Part of it was, I think, Indiana's just offensive game plan, obviously we just talked about, was horrible for this because it did not give you a chance to win. And I'm like, how do you set up a game plan that just doesn't do that? I know that they have 2 quarterbacks that they don't want to just throw to the wolves, and I get that. I understand that. But there are also just too many things I didn't see. Why not? And I've said this a few times today already, but why not roll the quarterback out and throw the ball? Why not some slant passes, quick RPOs? They didn't do that. And that's what I'm like, okay, I don't expect you to try to go deep every series, but you don't have to. If you could just run some quick plays, and they did not do that. And I didn't understand that at all.
No, I think everybody that I've spoken with was really kind of flummoxed by just how incredibly conservative they called the game, how um, just flat. It was just uncreative. There was no. They're just so incredibly risk adverse. I understand the importance of not giving up catastrophic plays. The pick sixes, the fumbles, the quick 3 and outs when you're deep in your own territory. I understand all of that. But at the end of the day, too, you've got to at least attempt to move the football. And I think part of it is you have a staff that's just trying to figure out, who's going to play where in what situation. Really just trying to get their arms around their assets at this point in the season. But all that said, when you're within striking distance of Ohio State at halftime, and you don't, knowing that you're still going to give up some points down the road, that's inevitable. Although, I think you also have to look at a defense that went on to hold the Buckeyes to 2 for 12 and third down conversions. Just extraordinary numbers on the defensive side. Have a little faith in those guys that they're going to be able to get off the field in the event that the offensive plans don't go well. And have confidence in them just as much as you do in the offensive guys, and take some shots, take some risks, and if nothing else, just move outside of that comfort zone a little bit, like you said, whether it's the RPOs, the screens, what have you. When you've got guys like Jalen Lucas and Cam Camper, figure out some way to get their names called, because honestly, you've yet again seen a team that's really ineffective in establishing a meaningful running game. So what else is there going to do? You've got to find a way to advance the ball a little bit. And, I'm certainly happy to see that, it's not, let's just go ahead and run the quarterback out there through a gauntlet every drive, and that's just going to be the best, because we've seen how that works out for QBs. But at the end of the day, too, you've got to give them something that gives them a shot to advance football and score some points. Because let's be honest, just playing competitive against Ohio State should never be the goal. And to hear those words kind of uttered in the press conference, I get you've got a lot of question marks, but boy, those certainly were the answers I think some fans were hoping to see.
Absolutely. And going forward now, Indiana, there should be a lot more, I guess, confidence in Indiana potentially having a bowl season, at least when you see teams like Purdue down, and this defense. They actually might have a legitimate shot of making a bowl this year if they can get this offense revved up. Numerically, yes, I totally agree with that. They are just, one game below 500 right now, with a lot of football left. All that said, though, I still think we need to see something this Friday that shows they have some degree of offensive competency, of capability. And I get maybe you want to keep the playbook a little bit tight against a team like Ohio State, not show all your cards early on, to the advantage of future scoutings. But at the end of the day, you got to show that you can do something. And that's just the way the game's played. No matter how good your defense is, eventually you still got to put points on the board. And this is going to be a great opportunity for Indiana, hopefully, to stretch their legs and their arms out a little bit and do some end zone celebrating and maybe figure out a path forward here. Because with so many questions on the offensive side of the ball right now, I'm certainly not willing to call this a bowl team yet, or anywhere in that conversation. But I will say, and without being overly negative, I do feel like this is a defense that's going to put you in position to win some of those close games, like we saw last season that broke away from Indiana at critical moments. When you've got a defense that's capable of getting stops like this, especially in key moments like they showed on Saturday, that certainly inspires a lot of confidence that at least you're going to be on that in the competitive realm, no matter how much the offense struggles. But they got to address some of those offensive struggles. Yeah, Justin says he thinks they'll learn a lot against Louisville, and I have said all for weeks that's the litmus test
Yeah.
for Indiana's season right there. They have to win that game for there to be the conversation that we're having. For them to potentially be a bowl team, they have to win that game. They don't win that game, I think that it's out the door immediately. And Louisville was tested over the weekend, and it looked like they were going to lose, but that's another advantage they had. They were tested back and forth. Their offense had opportunities and successes of coming from behind. So their offense obviously further along than Indiana's. You've got Jeff Brom there, who's got his quarterback that he had a couple of years ago at Purdue that transferred to Cal and not back. So a very experienced quarterback for him, although and so that's going to be interesting to see what IU's secondary can do, because we heard so much about the vaunted Ohio State receiving core, and it never materialized. I don't know if it was the defense or just the inexperience of Ohio State's quarterback, because they don't have Justin Fields. They don't have CJ Stroud anymore. And it shows.
Yeah. And, that could be one of the benefits as this season lines up to catching Ohio State right off the bat, like Indiana did in their opener, for a team that's also got some question marks under center, exploiting some of those because you got to imagine their staff was probably pretty comfortable in their game plan against Indiana, but also probably like the IU staff was probably trying to be a little bit protective of their QBs and the play calling, and just trying to keep their heads right at the start of the season and not get them off on the wrong foot. But you've got to give credit to IU's entire defense. All three levels, I felt like, did a good job of keeping Ohio State uncomfortable, of not giving up, massive pockets that they could exploit, and limiting those big plays that have been backbreakers for IU in years past. So, this is an example where I think Indiana was able to really leverage the portal and put the pieces together to play some strong Big Ten worthy football on the defensive side of the ball, which just maybe probably exacerbate some of those frustrations with the ineffectiveness on the offensive side, to be honest.
Kent making a good point that I talked that was one of my keys going into the game and coming out of, is that IU came out of the game relatively healthy, and that can always not be the case. But you've just gotten through one of the toughest games on your schedule, period. And you got through it healthy. And now you've got 3 non-con games left and one less Big Ten game that you have to worry about. One mammoth Big Ten game you don't have to worry about.
Yeah, I really need to see Jalen show that speed. I don't know if it's cramping injury or what that kind of hobbled him a little bit, but that was certainly one of those moments that took your breath away. But that was also, I think, history as an IU fan, knowing just how susceptible you are to seeing the wheels fall off with one of those early injuries to a key player. So I said it last week, my keys for the game were, don't get so embarrassed that, you run your fans off for the rest of the year, and more than anything, keep everybody available. And in that
Speaking of fans, we had the same deal happen again at this game, packed stadium, warm day in Bloomington, no doubt. But at halftime of a tight game against the number 3 team in the country, students gone. Yeah,
that'll happen when you're not playing winning football. That's just as old as time. Honestly, we've seen it here. You see it across the country, and let's be honest, you see it at Bama. When the game's not exciting, you don't have a whole lot of reason to stick around when everything else is popping outside and all about town. And it's unfortunate. It's kind of that chicken or the egg argument. But my thing has been all along, once they show up, and they are showing up, and they have for several years now, under Tom Allen, it's not been a problem of getting fans in the seats. It's keeping them there. And as I've said throughout this, the easiest way is play some winning football, put some points up on the board, get to the point where you can be like Alabama, where you've outscored the opponent so much that nobody wants to stick around for the remainder of the massacre and watching the second and third string guys get some run. But I think when you look at the offensive numbers Indiana put up, it didn't inspire a whole lot of confidence at the close of the first half that you're going to see some barrage of points come in the second half. So it's unfortunate, but I think it's just a reflection of the product that IU's fielding right now. And it's too bad because, like I said, the defense is going to put them in position to win. A couple drives break differently for Indiana, and you get that back to a one-score game, and now all of a sudden you're in a position where home field advantage can truly be leveraged. But without much confidence that that's even in the cards or in the realm of possibilities, I think you're going to continue to see those exact same scenarios play out. So score some points, man. Points are fun. Points keep people in the stands.